Hi everyone, welcome to the Confident Hypnotherapist podcast. This week, I'm chatting with Conny Wladkowski. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. How are you?
I'm good. Now, you know what? You're a unique guest in the sense that you're probably the person who's the newest to
Hmm.
this industry that I've ever had as a guest before.
Oh, wow, that's
And,
exciting.
people might wonder why I've invited you on. But it's because of the fact that in the short time you've been in this industry, you've done such incredible strides in a very short amount of time. So I know that in recent times you've been working on your own protocols, you've been collaborating with some well-known European hypnotists on fasting protocols. You're doing things within the space of 2 years that I think some people don't do in a space of 20 years. And so for that, I have to start by saying, well done on that, Connie, because you've definitely stepped outside the comfort zone frequently to do this.
Mm.
But the obvious question is, how does someone get such drive to be able to do this? What is it that gets you up and gets you into the day doing these things with such vigor?
Well, I would say that I had an experience a few years ago that really made me change my mindset. That really got me thinking, what is it that I really want to do with my life?
Mm-hmm.
So a few years ago, my dad passed away really sudden, out of the blue. And that was the moment where I was like, what am I really doing with my life? I've always had this passion for helping people. When I was 15, I did my first Reiki course. I think I had this belief back then, to heal the world or heal the people. I just had this vision. So I did lots of courses, but I never considered really doing it doing this full time or doing that for the rest of my life. But when my dad passed away, and that's when I started thinking about everything. I was like, what am I here to do? Like my dad just started enjoying his retirement and started living his life, and then his life has ended. And I was like, I just want to start living life now and do what I really want to do right now. And that was the start of this crazy last few years of my journey.
Mm. Where did your journey start?
Well, basically, the way I come across hypnotherapy was because I was suffering from anxiety and panic attacks. And the one thing that helped me was hypnosis.
Mm.
And that was then when I was like, wow, out of all the things that I've tried and out of all the modalities that I've learned, that was my big wow aha moment. So that's what was the point when I found what is that I really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, okay, well, then all these limiting beliefs started coming up,
What
you
kind of
know?
limiting beliefs did you find yourself facing?
Well, one of the big ones was, I'm not being seen, I'm not being heard. Who is going to come and see me for advice, or who is going to come and see me for help? And I had to really, before I started, considering to working as a hypnotherapist, I actually went on a healing journey myself
Mm.
over the last few years. You know, I've suffered from childhood trauma, which I believe that's where those beliefs came from in the first place.
Mm.
So I knew that when I started that journey, I was aware that, all right, it's going to get a little bit uncomfortable for myself as well along that journey, to heal and to really look at those aspects.
Mm.
Why do I have those beliefs? And then really overcome them.
And that's becoming the area that you tend to focus more so in on nowadays, isn't it? That anxiety and childhood trauma.
Yeah, those both are the areas where I've created a process, and yeah, those are my, I guess, areas of passion. I
Mm.
understand how it feels. I'm using modalities or tools on my clients that have helped me as well to overcome the anxiety. And then I've also started creating my own process around that, especially around the childhood trauma.
Which is
Um,
remarkable in itself because, I think for many people, the trend, I think, when many people start frequently, depending, I guess, on what kind of training they had, but it's not uncommon for people to, you know, um, utter those 5 words, does anyone have a script, uh, when they first start, in order to kind of figure out ways in which to approach how they can work with
mm,
these particular issues. And yet here you are, very early in your career, coming up with protocols that you could use yourself.
Yeah, it was like one thing I knew from the beginning is that I want to specialize in a certain area. And
Yeah.
I know I had two opinions from different mentors, to niche or to not niche, and then I changed my mind a couple of times, in the month when I was thinking about niching or not. And then I was like, you know what? No, this is what I'm going to go for. Those are the two things that I've experienced. Those are the two things that I've overcome. That's what I want to specialize in. And I'm so glad that I guess, trusted my own instinct or trusted my heart, that I'm like, I'm just going to go for that, And with the inner child healing, to be honest, I just, myself as a client, didn't find a process that really helped me. And I think that's why I've come to develop my own process.
That's really fascinating. So did you find that the whole idea of the inner child was something that could resonate with you, but there wasn't the process out there that was able to facilitate that
100%
sufficiently for you?
Yeah,
wow.
I felt like there was bits and pieces from this course, or maybe from this weekend, or from this process, but I just didn't feel like there was this all-round complete process. I just didn't find that, and that's why I was like, you know what, I can actually create that through my own experience, but also because of my own healing journey. And of course, I'm taking all the tools and stuff that I've learned, and just making a power combo out of that,
I think you're saying something that I frequently say to people all the time, and that is that my concern is that when people do a training, is that maybe that they're walking away just trying to replicate the trainer, and that will get some results, absolutely. But I also think the benefit comes when you go through a training and you distill it through who you are and create it into your way, because ultimately you have to be able to have 100% congruence and confidence in what you're doing in order to be able to get the results, or at least that's my belief. That could be a flawed belief, but that's my belief anyway.
No, I believe that too, but I also believe, I did learn hypnotherapy from the beginning. I learned how to write a script. I had amazing mentors and trainers, so I did learn how to write a script, because I need to learn how to write a script if I want to create my own process. And I do think that it is important to learn from different people. There's so many amazing hypnotherapists out there, and I think it's amazing to learn from different ones and then really pick out what resonated with you and then make it your own.
Who've been the biggest influence on you, and what was it about their trainings that you think had the biggest resonance?
Well, I would say the first person was Emma Romano. I did her family freedom protocol, and that totally changed my life on my own healing journey, but also to work with clients. And then I started working closely with her, learned a lot from her, which was amazing. And then after that, I did a lot of training with Michael DeSharlotte, and because obviously specializing in anxiety relief with Dan Kendall. I would say those are the three. And then Rob the Groove that I'm doing, projects with now, who has a completely different approach again.
Yeah, I mean, 4 very different hypnotherapists there, or hypnotists there as well, but 4 amazing individuals, to say the least. Like, I mean, the energy from all 4 of them is just so infectious at the best of times.
Yeah, I love that, because everyone's taught me something different. Michael was a lot about learning the basic of hypnosis, writing scripts. Obviously I did your course as well. I learned how to record scripts because of how to record my own recordings because of what I've learned from you. So I do think there's so many amazing people out there that you can just and then with Dan Kendall, wanting to specialize in anxiety relief, of course he was a person I wanted to go to.
He's the anxiety relief guy.
That's it. And look, I have used a lot of things on myself that I've learned from him, that are amazing.
I think, I'm thinking back to when Michael DeSharlotte and Dan Kendall were in Australia teaching. And one of the things that you went on to do very soon after that was to get up and do stage hypnosis, which takes, in my books, a hell of a lot of confidence and, I would say, courage, but that's probably the wrong word. I don't know. What was the experience like for you?
It was scary, but it was amazing. You know, it was amazing. And I think it was great that we pretty much started setting that up the moment the course finished. You know, there wasn't too much of a space to think about it. And yeah, it was amazing. It was such an amazing show. I loved it. And, you know, it was just another piece of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, but it was great. Definitely, you know, I loved it.
Given that you've got, you know, this experience now, I mean, I don't know how many years you've been in the hypnosis world. I know that you mentioned to me that you're fairly recent. But given all the things that you've achieved in a very short amount of time, what advice would you give to anyone else who is just starting now in the world of hypnosis and who may be experiencing some of those doubts and keeping themselves small? You know, what would you say to them?
Well, I think one of the key things is consistency and patience, you know, like you're not like I'm going to decide I'm a hypnotherapist and then overnight you're going to be fully booked with clients, or at least it didn't happen for me. So I think it's the consistency, because when you start working by yourself, and, you know, if you start as a hypnotherapist, you're most likely going to be working by yourself. You don't have anyone that's pushing you. You don't have a boss that's expecting results from you. You know, you don't have anyone that you're accountable towards you. And I think that's where people get stuck. You know, that's where people start procrastinating. So I think it's that consistently showing up, you know, and I think the way I manage to do that is my clients, is my why. So why am I doing this? You know, I'm doing this for my clients, and that's what gets me out of bed every morning. And because there's no one telling me that I need to do that, you know? So I think my passion and my love for doing that and seeing the results and the transformations is my why. And I think if you're starting out, find the why. Why are you doing this? And get that from within, you know? Find that within yourself.
I think even, you know, whenever we're talking to people about making change, any form of a habitual change, you know, one of the key things is we need to find the why that's strong enough to take them in the direction they need to go. So I can completely resonate with what you're saying there as well.
Totally. And I also think, look, one of the things that I've experienced is there has been moments where I wanted to throw the towel in, where I wanted to give up, and I'm like, oh, it's just easier to go and work for someone else. And I think those are the moments you need to push through, and that then creates the success.
Yeah.
You know, because it's when everything goes well, it's easy to do it. But I think those are the moments, if you can push through those moments, that's when success will come, because that differentiates you between someone that gives up straight away or someone that is willing to push through. And yeah, those are the moments where I draw again on that why, you know. And a lot of the times you're gonna be trying out things and not everything is gonna be working. And, you know, you might be posting something and no one's resonating with it, or you might bring out a process and no one, I don't know, no one sees it or no one's interested in it. So, you know, those are the moments where you just gotta try something else. Just keep on trying, you know.
You were talking about success there. What does success mean to you?
I would say success means to me when I see those transformation in clients, and you know, I hear from them and they let me know how they're going, or they send me messages. That's for me, you know, is success. For me also, I want to reach as many people as possible, especially with the inner child healing, because I feel like there's a lot of fear around inner child healing. So I want to take that fear away from people. It doesn't have to be scary.
What do you think is that fear? What is the fear of?
I don't know. Like, I know I have a lot of clients that come from, oh, I don't want to go back and relive my childhood trauma. I don't want to go back and, remember every detail. I think that's one of the fears, that people think they have to do that. For me, I never really felt that there was a safe and judgment-free space to open up and heal. So I think those are the three main things that hold people back. And the approach that I'm taking is that there's no regression work what I'm doing with my inner child healing.
That's interesting, because, you know, whenever I think of inner child healing, it often is about going back to that event and you know, I guess reparenting, or for want of a better term, to help them to shift their experience of what has been.
Yeah, well, the way I look at it in two ways. Number one, when I went through it, I didn't want to go and be brought back into the event. And when I look at, when we look at us, there is that inner child part is still within us.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like we've grown up and we stepped out of our body and we left.
No, it's completely there. Yeah.
So it's still there. And the way I look at it is that when you experience trauma in your childhood or whatever we experience in your childhood, those are the things that you're going to carry into your adulthood. And then you think you're the adult version that wants to reach a certain thing or wants to do a certain thing. And then you're being held back by that inner child part. So when I work with a client, I really look at the client and see, okay, where are you now and where are you stuck right now? Mm-hmm. Because the way I see is the story of the past is the story of the past. We're not going to be able to change it. Some people have such traumatic stories that I don't want to bring them back to that story. And I feel like if we're going back to the story, we're just putting more and more energy towards the story. And with my clients, I do notice that as a child, you know, we're very creative and we create solutions. Mm. So let's say a typical solution that someone that's been abused would create is that they don't trust people. So that's a solution, and it probably keeps them safe for a very long time, you know, growing up, getting older, you know, not trusting anyone. But then they find the love of their life and they can't trust that person. How are they gonna then have a healthy, trusting marriage? So something that was once a solution, usually in the childhood, turns into a problem. Yeah. And that's where I'm looking at. So almost bringing yourself and your inner child into alignment.
That's fascinating and a very different way to kind of do it. I'm sure that a few people are probably listening to this right now and going, intriguing. So I'm sure people will be curious to see your protocol when it's ready. Are you planning for it to be something that you're going to be teaching people, or is it something that you're just solely using for yourself?
At the moment, I'm just seeing it, you know, I'm just using it for my clients, but it's definitely something I can picture myself teaching in the future, 100%. Because I think that work needs to go out there, you know, because I do think that a lot of times people label, you know, traumatic experience in childhood, but I also think that nothing traumatic needs to happen in your childhood, and you're still gonna most likely have some limiting beliefs from that time, you know.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't always have to be a traumatic
trauma, for want of a better word.
100%. I've got people come up to me and they're like, you know what, I haven't been abused. I feel like I have no right to do inner child healing, you know. And I'm like, you know, I hear all that traumatic things happening to other people, you know. And that's when I explain to them, it doesn't matter if it's traumatic. Whatever happened, you know, it's just a label. Isn't that just a label that we give something?
The funny thing is, often when I may do any work that involves inner child work, I might sometimes share with people my own experience of it, because I'm that person that didn't necessarily have a traumatic experience as a child, but I had an experience that as a child I perceived as being somewhat traumatic. Yeah. And I explained to them that for many years, and probably even the stimulus that was the seed of this podcast, I had this belief of I'm not equal, I'm inferior. And I would compare myself to other people, and it brought out imposter syndrome and things like that. And when I was working on that, I had a memory of my parents when I was about 3, deciding to go to Tasmania for their wedding anniversary and leaving me home with my siblings. And as a 3-year-old, my thoughts were, why am I not the center of your world? Why are you not taking me? Am I not important enough? Now, as an adult, I can reflect back on that and go, geez, my parents just wanted a weekend away from the kids. Completely understand that. But as a child, you know, it wasn't a traumatic experience. But as a child, that thing of being left by my parents so that they could go away was a everyday trauma, is what I tend to refer to it.
Yeah, I like that terminology. I always say traumatic, non-traumatic, but I like that. I like that everyday trauma, you know, that sometimes that just happens when a younger sibling is born and the older sibling is not the center of attention anymore. And the mom tells the older sibling 2 or 3 times, shh, be quiet, I got to take care of the baby. That older sibling, you know.
Well, it's the meaning we make out of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as a child, and how do beliefs work? Well, you create the belief, and then you go looking for evidence that belief is true. And, you'll find that, because what you go looking for, you'll find. And eventually over time, you'll forget the original event. You're just left with that belief that forms the paradigm of your reality. And, I always say to people, and I must admit, I pinched this from Jess Marion from her book on regression, where she will often ask people, do you know what the capital of the United States is? And they'll say, Washington, D.C. And she'll say, do you remember the exact moment that you learnt that? Now, who does? Who remembers that? No one does. They might say, oh, I remember it. I learnt that at school. It's like, yes, but do you remember the exact moment?
Yeah.
Because at one point of time you didn't know, and then over another point in time you did. There was an exact moment. You forget it, but that fact kind of just keeps coming back. It becomes the fact. And beliefs work in much the same way. We forget sometimes what the initial stimulus was, and we're just left with the feeling of it, the belief of it.
Yeah, and I actually also believe that sometimes people make up a logical reason or a story, because that would
absolutely, that's the meaning.
Feed that belief, so we have an explanation for that. And that's why, I don't really go digging for the why, and don't do that regression work. I'm more looking at the now. What's going on for you now? Where are you stuck now? Where are you being held back right now? What's sabotaging you right now?
Yeah.
Whether it's a belief or it's emotion or it's a habit,
Absolutely. So if people want to reach out to you and wanted to do some work with you, how can they do that?
I've got a website. Do you want to put it in the comments, or?
Yeah, I can. It can appear at the bottom of the screen now.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And it will disappear. So everyone, make sure you got pen and papers. You're writing it down. Have you got it? Just wait a second longer. Okay. And it's going to disappear again. Now, right, good. Okay.
Like magic.
I know. It's like I should be a magician or something. So, and that way, if anyone is curious, they can reach out to you and explore that further. What does the future have in store for Conny? What do you have plans and goals to do next?
Hopefully travel the world soon again, and then and bring my process out to the world. Even further, just inspire more people, inspire more clients. And as I said, hopefully teach my program as well one day. And just, keep on seeing clients and just keep on helping people, changing lives. That's what I love doing.
Yeah. Where do you feel in terms of your own professional development? What do you think you would like to see yourself exploring next?
Maybe, even presenting at hypnosis conferences. I've attended one last year in Australia.
Hypnobiz?
Hypnobiz, yeah. Well, not as a presenter. It was my first experience. So I can see myself doing that as well.
Yeah, it would be great if we could get some conferences happening again. I know there's certainly seemingly lots online, which is great. But I think even from my experience with Hypnobiz in Australia, we certainly do miss being able to be in the same room with people and enjoying their energy and making that eye contact. And I know from my experience as a presenter, I tend to use humor a lot, and it's very disconcerting on Zoom to crack a joke and almost feel like a tumbleweed going through.
Yeah.
It can be like, oh, I don't know if my humor is landing here or not. We'll just work with that and see how it goes.
Yeah, I think that human interaction and that bonding with like-minded people is amazing.
Absolutely.
I love that. I had such a good time last year. So, hopefully, traveling to Vegas for Hypnothoughts, I'd love to do that, and there's so many other amazing conferences in Europe and in America. Just get out there and see all those friendly faces again,
Absolutely. And that's the wonderful thing about the hypnosis community, is that I find that on the whole, many people are so supportive and so genuinely open to helping each other. It's a really wonderful community for doing that.
100%. I had so many amazing mentors that were helping me, that were supporting me. Yeah, I love it, and I think that's a great thing is we all have one, I feel like we all have one goal in common, and that's just helping people heal. And I think that is the greater goal. And I think that's why people are so supportive and are wanting to help each other to become better hypnotists or hypnotherapists, so we can, help more people.
I'm getting a sense also from you that one of the things you would probably recommend to people starting out is about perhaps getting a mentor that can help guide them as well.
I think the one-on-one mentoring, and I did most of the last year was a lot of one-on-one mentoring, really helped me accelerate. Because it was like specific to what I wanted to learn, what I needed to do. I started with the groups, obviously, but yeah, the last year was purely one-on-one mentoring. And I'm looking for those mentors where I'm like, oh, I want to learn something from that person, I'm actually I want to go a bit more into anxiety relief with teens.
Yeah.
So that's, my next plan and project,
What is it that's steering you that way? Is what's the drive there?
Oh, I've had so many teens contact me lately. So many parents contact me with anxiety, and I think it's a lot with lockdown and schools opening and closing, and the whole pressure and not seeing their friends. So I've definitely noticed a rise in that. So yeah, I'd love to know more how I can specifically, help teens, and what
Well, Conny, I'll say thank you for your time today and for allowing people to get a bit of an insight into the work you've done and what has allowed you to be able to be rapidly successful. I don't know if that's a phrase that you feel uncomfortable with me using or not. I know often that when people, I don't know, are you the type of person that embraces your success, or?
I do, because I feel like I've worked for it.
Yeah.
I've worked for it, and I am at the point where I'm like, I'm deserving this. I'm proud of what I've achieved,
Yeah, absolutely. As you
a
should.
limiting belief that I'm not good enough and stuff. Thank God I left that behind,
Are there any, and you may not want to share, but are there any limiting beliefs that you still feel hold you back in any way?
Look, I definitely think presenting maybe in front of other hypnotherapists, that could be a bit of a challenge,
All right, we can work on that one. All right, yeah.
Yeah, maybe the feeling that presenting in front of people that have been in that industry for a lot longer. But yeah, well, actually, one challenge I'm conquering right now is I'm being co-author in a book. So I've never written a book, so that's definitely something that I'm conquering right now.
Wonderful. And how are you going with that?
Yeah, good. I've started writing, chapters, a bit of an outlay, got an idea of what I want to write. So once I started, I was fine. But the day after I signed up, I was like, what have I done? I had a quick 5 minutes of what have I done? And then I'm like, stop that. Come on.
Clearly, there's no stopping you. So all power to you for it. Conny, thank you for your time. I hope everyone's really enjoyed having a listen to your story, and here's to your continued success.
Thank you so much for having me. It was amazing.
No problem. Everyone take care, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. See ya.